Good. Hear it. The time is 5:32 on Monday, July 17th, and I'd like to call this work session to order. First, our city updates. So Chief of Staff Solano, please take it away.
Thank you, Madam Chair, City Council and Mayor Gradisar. I have a couple of updates this evening. I'd like to start with on my tickler file was a reminder in the middle of summer to get direction from City Council with respect to lobbyists and the 2024 legislative state season and your direction on whether an RFP was your direction and it's not required, or just to follow up with a subsequent contract. So it is in place by January for the next season. So I just had the tickler on my calendar for summertime, so I thought I'd bring that up today. And we have time, you have time. I just wanted a reminder to you. I don't know if you have direction this evening or if you want to give me direction in a week or so.
Any preference on direction from council? Councilor Atencio?
I spoke to another lobbyist and I told him we might be putting out an RFP. And he says, well, you're already working with Gil. We wouldn't interfere and we wouldn't want to go over him. So that might be what other people are thinking too. There might be other people that would go to it, but we have a lobbyist already. Why not continue the contract?
Councilor Flores?
Yeah, my feeling is that we didn't really utilize him for the whole year. We kind of started kind of in the middle. And I was very impressed with the way he kept us informed, how he communicated with us. And I felt like for the first time, we really had a lobbyist that was concerned about our city and how he was very clear and effectively communicating too on these various bills. So my preference is that we stay with the same lobbyist. If we don't need to go out for an RFP, at least give him a full other term to see how how you can really analyze him fully. But I like what I see so far.
I just think that's what we have the RFP process for, is to give people the opportunity that want to work with us to put something forward. They may or they may not, but that's what the RFP process is for. It's part of charter. It's charter.
So you don't actually have to do an RFP for professional services. If you do professional services under the purchasing policies, there is a process. You don't have to follow that. But if you do it without the RFP process, then you'd have to have an ordinance approving.
Okay, well, I'm not saying that it's part of charter. What I'm saying is part of a process. And that, that's what they put them out there for, so that we have the opportunity to see if someone is interested and how we go about that and choose whoever comes in front of us.
That's certainly your discretion. I would note, like, for a lot of professional services, they're kind of unique, and sometimes an RFP isn't. I'm not saying this one isn't. But I certainly wouldn't hire an attorney based on an RFP. I would find those that are well suited to the area. This, though, it's discretionary with you, and that's up to you.
Well, I think that we don't know that until they're put in front of us and see if there may not even be any interest. But I think it's a fair process rather than to say, oh, we're going to hire this person without looking to see. This is a public office. And everyone has the right, if in this case, to apply for the position. And so that we eliminate any type of favoritisms or that kind of stigma that is put on situations like this, we've just shown that we've done the fairest thing possible and allowed people, allowed those lobbyists to come forward.
Counselor Flores.
I just wanted to say is that we're very fortunate that we can find a lobbyist that grew up here in Pueblo, that lived here in Pueblo, that represented Pueblo. I mean, it's kind of unique. I don't know if there are any other lobbyists that have that kind of background to have lived here, to have served the community here as a state representative. I think we're really fortunate to have someone that's unique in that way. And I still think we should, stick with that firm for at least the next session.
Councilor Martinez Ortega, do you have a preference on RFP for a lobbyist going into RFP or just utilizing Mr. Romero?
I have no comment at this time about that. I mean, I'm not one way or the other on it.
Okay, but staff needs direction.
And Madam Chair, I don't need it this evening, but I think if you're gonna, the direction is for staff to work with the interim city attorney on the scope of services, that by the time you get an RFP and process and a committee to review bids and an interview process, that's why I think it was on our calendars for midsummer for discussion and direction. So I can add it again next Monday, or if you think 2 weeks, but not much longer. So we have the time to go through that process if that's direction. Is that okay?
Yeah, that sounds good. I definitely can see what Counselor Maestri is saying about a fair process. And if Mr. Romero is the best fit in that RFP process, I think that's what the RFP process would, entail. And so my inclination is, to open it up and see what kind of applicants we get. And perhaps we go with Mr. Romero because he's the best fit, but at least it's an competitive process. Transparent.
Yes.
Okay, so it sounds like we'll revisit though at next week. Because it doesn't sound like we're ready to make that decision tonight. Is that what I'm hearing from council?
Most like it's.
Yeah, I think it deserves more discussion.
Okay.
I'll add that.
Continued.
Thank you. The second update is just to let you know, I do meet with District 60 administration this coming Wednesday. And so we're continuing to find the right people and the right date for, I think you've asked for a presentation and a work session from Dr. Gusevich on her work with children and youth and mental health in the school district. So I do meet with Mr. Andrew Burns this coming Wednesday. And I'll be back with an update on getting that scheduled because you will not see it yet on the schedule. And to move on, I distributed for you, and I talked with Counselor Winter late last week. And I did hand out our process and staff just wanting some clarification, and I'm going to turn it over to Counselor Winter, but just in a moment, just to refresh how our current council contingency process flows. So we initiate council contingency requests through 4 different ways. We either receive an email in the mayor's office, and Alyssa coordinates all of those. We just leave it and forward them to Alyssa to coordinate. And she forwards those requests out to all council members to determine if there's a response and an interest from any one of you to sponsor or support the request. A second way is a phone call coming into the mayor's office, and then they're forwarded to Alyssa, and then she is the key responder to provide them with instruction that they're to send an email request so that it is standardized, and that she follows the same outline as number 1. We go back out in an email to all of you. And the third way is when the mayor's office takes a phone call from any one of you and requests that there's a council contingency sponsorship that you would like added to a resolution on the city council agenda. And the fourth way is while we're here listening to a presentation from any one nonprofit, and you give the direction in a work session to please add a sponsorship to a coming work session. From there, we work with city attorney's office and provide a resolution for the agenda. And then the staff report on the resolution is usually then referred back to the city council member who wanted to support the resolution amount and or city staff. Either mayor or our city attorney will present city staff, but mostly city council members have been doing that. And then there's a vote. And while I was talking to Counselor Winter, she asked if I could put that reminder of the process in front of you this evening. And then I'm going to turn it over to Counselor Winter, who's got some discussion items to go over on maybe modifying or confirming the current process.
So I guess my beef on this, or my heartburn on this, is that if you're the first person to respond to the email, then that council member sits up here and says, oh, that's my ask. And it really wasn't your ask at all. You just responded first to the email. I also think that either staff needs to get that report and then we have discussion and vote. So you're not saying, oh, that's my ask. Or even better, if we're giving away money when it comes to the vote, the person asking for the money should probably be here and give like a 2-minute presentation. Most of these things, like Laura and I were discussing, like 99% of them, we give money every year. Every year, whether it's a chamber table or money to the soup kitchen or whatever, but it should not be politicized by sitting up here saying, this is my ask, when all you did was respond to the email first.
Before we talk about that, are there any other city updates, Ms. Solano?
Having a discussion on this now? Is that?
Yeah. I was just making sure that there's no there's,
I have 2 more.
okay.
Okay.
You want to talk about this now or wait
Well,
until,
it seemed appropriate. I
Yeah.
think that's why you turned it over, was for discussion. Yes.
Counselor Martinez Ortega?
Counselor Winter, you were talking about a suggestion of a process. Can you reiterate that?
What I do is if I have somebody that asks me about it, I always send them to the mayor's office, because if it's somebody new, I don't know if they're really a nonprofit or what's going on. So I'm assuming that they're vetted by the mayor's office before it gets, to us. That's my assumption. I think that all of them should be. As far as a city council person, actually, if somebody comes to you and says, I want this, and you set up a work session, if you want to pontificate about that at the time, that's fine. But I don't know, I guess I got kind of stuck, but so I think the process should be that those people are referred to the mayor's office, or if you want to call, you can say, can you check these people out if they're a 501c3, if it's proper to give them money. We also might even want to think of a cap when it comes to council contingency, like a cap of $1,000, something like that. So say if the chamber has a table for 1,500, the cap is 1,000, because they're also getting tickets plus the table, is my understanding.
And I think over a phone conversation that we had, you were saying that maybe the 501c3s that are asking for the money should come and give that staff report instead of the council members, because they know a little bit more about what's going on.
Yeah, I think it would be good for folks that also watch council. So that, say, for instance, if the soup kitchen is asking for money, they come and they speak and tell us what they're going to do with that money, rather than just sitting here saying, passes 7-0, passes 7-0, passes 7-0. The public just kind of views that as we're just doling out money. And I think that organization, I mean, if you're giving me $1,000, I would expect to show up here and tell you why I want it.
Yeah. Good idea.
Counselor Maestri?
Well, I think it would be more equitable if we did set a limit on it. And then that way we can serve more people. We could serve more organizations and their causes. Otherwise, it's not fair for somebody to get 15,000 or 6,000 and then the other person get 500 or 1,000. We're not here to entirely support an event. We're here to give some support. And some of these asks are supporting their entire, what they're trying to do, like an exhibit or a piece of equipment. They should be able to get those from other resources, not just city council, because there's a lot of people out there and organizations out there that have a need. And we don't need to swallow up the funds. I don't even think a lot of people even know that they can apply for things. The other thing too is I would like to know when someone comes in front of us if that, how have we given it to them in the past? How many times? Are they coming every year? Is it a repeat? Are they coming twice a year? And we should put some limits on that. I mean, after all, we want to make it equitable to the community for everyone to have an opportunity. And it shouldn't be, do we want to do this? They should be able to call in and they should be vetted by the city and then just put it on the agenda. That way, it's first come, first serve fairness. As long as they meet the requirements to come in front of us, they should have just as much opportunity, because I don't know about everyone else, but sometimes they get lost in the email and no one's responded. And then they're like, oh, I should have done that, because we've been voting after the fact on a lot of things. That's true. We've been voting after the fact, after the event's already taken place. And so I think we should just put some guidelines to it and follow the guidelines and be fair to everyone in the community, give them an opportunity to come forward.
I agree with the point about asking for ratification after the event's already over. We should clean that up. I agree with that. Most of the time, we establish a budget at the end of every year. And I don't think we've ever gone over our budget. As long as I've been on city council, I don't think we've ever exceeded what's in that budget. And most of the asks are really for table sponsorship, of which it allows us to go to these functions and meet our constituents and listen to, sometimes we find out interesting stuff, but I don't know whether, whether the process needs to be tightened up when we're just sponsoring a table. I think we should I think I could agree with maybe a better process, one that, if somebody's asking for 2,000 or 5,000 and it's coming out of council contingencies, I agree with this new process. But on the ask for a $500 table or a ticket of 4 or a sponsorship of $1,000 table, I don't know if we need that kind of a complex process, because all of us have a chance to vote if we don't want to do it, and you vote no.
Yeah, I've asked previously that we not do high dollar amounts from council contingencies. That fell on deaf ears after I asked that we not give $5,000, $6,000, $8,000 to an organization, that should come from a different source, not to mention the betting process to boot. But anyone who asks me for a sponsorship, I make sure that they're a nonprofit. I make sure that they're vetted, they're a solid organization. I don't sponsor anybody that just comes in off the streets and wants $1,000. I agree that maybe 1,000 is a little low, considering that some requests are at for 1,500. I think maybe 2,000 would be, or 2,500 would be reasonable, but to put another process in place when we should be vetting the people that we're giving, be giving money to. If you don't know who you're giving money to, then why are you sponsoring the resolution in the first place?
Well, how do
So
you,
you
how,
know.
how do you vet them? Do you look at the Secretary of State, make sure they're in
How
compliance?
would I know them?
Oh, well, see, that's what I mean, because there's been plenty of stuff up in front of us where people haven't been in compliance
I don't,
with the
I don't-
Secretary of State.
I've got the
I'm
floor.
just saying.
I've got
Okay,
the floor.
there you go.
I don't sponsor anybody that I don't know. So if somebody were to come to me that I didn't know, I probably would go to the Secretary of State and look. But then I probably wouldn't sponsor that person anyway, because I don't know who they are. Are you going to sponsor somebody that you don't know? No, neither am I. You? Yeah, maybe. I don't know. The point is that if we're not doing our jobs, why do we need a process by which we bring in somebody and give us an explanation of why they want that money, a $500 sponsorship? That's. That's not right. You know, high dollar amounts, I agree. But if we're not doing our job, why would we expect the, to turn it over to the mayor's office?
Counselor Warner?
Well, it already goes through the mayor's office and 99% of those are all repeats. They come to us every year. My issue mainly was if you're the first to respond to an email, you sit up here and you say, oh, that's my ask, blah, 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 when it's really not.
Mhm.
So I guess we don't necessarily, especially if we sponsor them every year. And again, that's 99% of the requests. Maybe then Laura should just give a report and we vote.
Yeah, I would be totally amenable to that. Having staff present or inviting the agency or organization. Sometimes when we get to that portion of the agenda, it's already like 9 o'clock at night on a Monday. So I don't know how feasible that is. But offering that opportunity for people to come in and give that presentation, or having Miss Solano or perhaps like even the clerk give that update.
Just give the staff report before we vote. And they already do go through the mayor's office. And I mean, we don't give them a check until they've been cleared.
And I think, yeah,
So it's not really adding that.
when I do this, I get asked, I also just forward it to the mayor's office, and then Alyssa asks for their financials, or not financials, but like their
Mhm.
whatever.
Right.
So I know that's the current process. So I'd be okay with that change.
Well, just to say, we have had a few people up here that weren't even a 501c, they were a private organization that we've had to turn away. And quite a few people. So I guess maybe we just need to sharpen that process. If we're expecting that to come from direction from the mayor's office, that they do put a little process in place to verify. Because it's not good for the person asking, and it's not good for us if they're coming up and then they can't qualify because they're not a 501c3.
Okay. Other comments?
I just wanted to say that I think most of the ones that I've brought forward, I've lived in Pueblo so long that I'm looking at the Latino Chamber, the Boys and Girls Club. There's no way that Laura or Marissa can tell me anything about those two organizations. I've been involved with knowing about these organizations for probably 40 years, 30 years with the Boys and Girls Club. So if you want somebody else to explain who they are, what they're all about, like in my case, with those two particular ones, I don't think Marissa, who's a recent person to Pueblo, and Laura could tell any better than I can about what they do, the good they do in the community. But if you just want them to do it, it's fine with me. I don't have a problem with that.
I think it's just fair. I think it's just double checking. And then that way we don't have, like I said, the few problems that we have, or we're listening to.
I don't think any of us would bring anybody forward that is not.
But we're just trying to say that we should bring people forward if they call in and they ask and they meet the criteria. It shouldn't be a choice of whether we want to just bring them forward. That's what I'm saying. It's fair. It's right. I mean, if someone calls in and it goes into an email and no one responds to the email thinking, oh, well, Larry's going to do it, or maybe Lori's going to do it, and then nobody responds, maybe they're getting lost in translation. And we don't know that.
Well, if there's anything that's ever happened, I think then that would show that the lack of interest.
Yeah.
And I don't think that this is a process that we're going to iron out tonight.
Well,
But
and I'm sorry.
it's good to, I think with this, something that we should revisit and maybe actually put some time on a work session for that. So we're not hanging up our guests for tonight.
Is it possible to get a list of the all of the expenses out of council contingency, a list? We probably would be.
It's all the same people mainly.
There's nothing wrong with that. I mean,
Right,
those are
it's
all
not.
great
That's fine.
organizations.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd have,
It's just not your ask. is
that
all.
the mayor's
For
office would have
everyone.
a full list for the last, well, we've been here 4 years. We have a list of a running total of distributing the $100,000 by individual organization and by amount in a spreadsheet. So it would be pretty easy to share that information, or just this year's. But the running total for distribution on an annual basis is attached to every resolution. So you can track those down on the agenda every other week.
Counselor Warner?
Yeah, Vincente, I think we can wrap this up tonight. I guess what we're asking for is for staff to give the report. And then we vote on it. And then Larry suggested a $2,000 maximum out of there. If it's more than $2,000, it probably needs to come out of general fund or something, just a different process.
At that point, we should probably have the individuals come in and give.
Well, yeah, after, well, again, that would be a whole different thing, right?
There's a difference between 2 and 5.
Right, right.
And we've given 5 and 6 and 8, probably.
Right.
8 one time, I think. And
So if
just-
everybody's,
just because the counselor wanted it.
right. So if everybody's okay with staff reading it and then we vote on it, and then we put a cap of $2,000.
I'm okay with the staff doing the ask or the report out. I don't know how I feel about the cap just yet,
Okay,
especially as Counselor Flores said that through his tenure, he's never, we've never exceeded the amount, even with like.
well, you can't, you only have
$15,000.
so much money, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not sure about the cap just yet.
Perhaps we just get an average an average ask. So we can see what the average ask is for council, which will give us a good data point of what that average ask is that we're voting on. And then is everyone okay with staff reading the ordinance?
Yes,
Or the resolution, rather?
yes.
The only problem with the averages is nobody's average.
Yeah,
We can average the numbers, but the need for an organization.
sure.
It's,
you know, so,
it
yeah,
seems
they're all
like
different.
99% of them are going to be table sponsors, which are like $1,000, $1,500.
Yeah.
So we're making a huge deal out of this right now when we really don't need to be.
So staff,
So get out of the weeds and we'll have staff read it. And then I guess we can talk later about a cap. But we can talk about the money as it comes up. You know, if it's $6,000, we say, oh, I don't know, maybe this should be general fund at that time. So I guess don't put a cap on it. Keep doing what we're doing. It's just not a particular council's ask when we give it to them every year. And just have, you know, Laura can say, this is for the chambers table. They're asking for $1,200 pass.
I understand what you're saying, Lori, but every time we get to those high dollar amounts, it becomes a huge discussion and then it never gets resolved. It just goes back to the same, why are we having these high asks? So,
Well, we can start with this change and then ponder on the max so that we have some decision.
I also just want to note that I don't think there's many large asks throughout the year that surpass, you know, the average, the average ask.
$1,500, usually with the cost of a table.
Right, so there, it's not like, you know, we're voting on $5,000 every week.
Right, exactly.
Mr. Jagger, did you have anything?
So you're aware, next meeting you have 2 that actually are bump up against both the things you discussed. One is for retro and the other is.
I can't hear you.
You have 2 items on for resolutions. One is a retro payment, and the other is a $6,600 ask. Just so you're aware.
We'll figure it out.
Okay. Thank you, Councilor Warner, for bringing this to our attention. We're moving forward with staff giving that recommendation. Thank you for our guests for being patient in the audience. And I would like to call our friends from Boys and Girls Club up to the podium. to
Madam
give-
Chair, we have 2 more updates from city. staff.
Oh, thank you, Councilor. Martinez.
But while they're on their way, I'll do the first one fast and the second one is about them as I introduce it. So the first one is just to talk about congratulations on a successful pop-up cleanup this last weekend. The streets crew with the work from the volunteers loaded 2 dumpsters and several trucks They opened up alleys, they collected trash, debris, 6 square blocks from Arroyo on the north boundary to Northern on the south, west boundary of I-25 and east boundary Evans. So nice work, good pop-up to clean up. And then the last update is just an ARPA update that we began tonight by inviting the first of our returning awardees from ARPA dollars, and Boys and Girls Clubs has this distinction of reporting first in the summer series of updates. As a reminder to City Council, you approved and funded in the last more than 1 year ago an East Side Clubhouse in the amount of $71,140 and the transportation minibuses of $160,000 from ARPA dollars to Boys and Girls Clubs. The most recent, of course, are the teen centers, and I doubt there's anything but just a quick overview on any of that. And so we start tonight with Boys and Girls Club and ARPA on the agenda next meeting. The United Way request of 600,000 will be on first reading, and in the works is the Neighbor Works ARPA request for the 900,000. And that does conclude city updates this evening. Thank you.
Great. So I see in front of me Miss Medina and Miss Larkins. Whenever you're ready.
Thanks. I don't know how this works. I've never been up here. So thank you for having us. And thank you for supporting us. We truly appreciate it. So for the slideshow, we're only reporting on the East Side ARPA funds on the slideshow, but we will discuss the other 2 ARPA funds as well towards the end. So we were awarded $71,140 for our East Side Clubhouse. To date, we've only spent $19,452.76. And that is from May 1st of 22 through the grant period goes through the end of this year, 12/31 of 23. And so the funding, the funds spent are through June 30th. So it's about 27% of the amount that we were granted. And the reason it's not more expended is because we had to strategize in some of our funding because of the way our funds come in. And we knew that we were going to have kind of a cliff at the end of June this year because of expiring COVID-19 funding sources. So we are planning to expense the balance remaining of $51,687.24 before December 31st of this year at our East Side Clubhouse. We have had a few challenges as well. We've had some staffing shortages at our East Side Clubhouse that we've not been able to find. That is partially due to the environment for hiring and some of our challenges with just finding eligible people to come and work with our youth. Sometimes that is challenging. And then we've also had some turnover in critical positions. So one of them being in our finance department. So we did last August that we did lose a longtime financial director. And then I took her place. So that's been a little bit of a challenge, me getting to know all of the funding sources and how the Boys and Girls Club works, but we're getting there. And the other thing is we had some turnover as far as our East Side director. We had a gal who was employed with us and she resigned to go raise her family. And we did have a short-term employee in there. Some things didn't quite work out. So we're still looking for a new East Side director. We do have an interim currently who's doing an exceptional job, but she's already being paid from another funding source. So those were some of our challenges that are currently surrounding our financials and expending the ARPA funds. Do you want to add anything?
Sorry.
I'm Becky Medina, Chief Operating Officer. I will share that the work continues at the East Side Clubhouse. And the slide here demonstrates that in 22, we had 438 members. Our average daily attendance at the East Side Clubhouse was 86 members per day. We serve nearly 200 teens, and our capacity is 120, so we can serve up to 120. Now, January through June, we've served 344 youth. Our average daily attendance is 87, and our capacity is 105. So that demonstrates with that position that we are still looking to fill. And then we had 200 elementary students, 101 middle school, and 43 high school students that we're serving on the east side. As it related to our ARPA proposal, just to share with programs that, I'm just going to town here, with programs that have a graduation component. So those are those programs that are consensual, or they move from, session 1 through session 5 or 8. 82% of our kids are improving from pre to post survey. 217 of our members have participated in community service. Our goal is that 50% are participating in community service. So that's 63. We're exceeding that goal. And that we also committed to our members will participate in at least 30 minutes of physical fitness activities at the club. And with the data that we collect, they're averaging 37 minutes of physical fitness activity per day. The other big initiative that we wanted to start with this program was workforce readiness. And we are looking for a workforce coordinator, but our staff have done some great work around workforce. But the first person that I want to invite up here is Adi Barros to talk about his experience at our Central Clubhouse in the workforce development program.
Good afternoon, City Council members and members of our community. My name is Ari Barros, and I'm here today to talk about the work opportunities I've gotten from the Boys and Girls Club and how they've helped me transition into the workforce smoothly. I started working for the Boys and Girls Club last summer as a team leader, where I learned important life and job skills almost immediately before I even got hired. The first instance of this was at a conflict resolution workshop at the Eastside Clubhouse, where I learned skills to help peacefully resolve and spot conflict amongst members. Fast forward a bit, after getting hired as a team leader at the Central Ray Aguilera Clubhouse, I continued working into the school year and was supported by a strong support system of staff and club members for any new work-related situation I may have found myself in. The club and its resources also allowed me to get my CPR certification and most recently, my ServSafe food handler certification. Currently, I'm working as a peer leader at the Minnequaw Clubhouse, and I plan to continue to do so, not only because of all the support and benefits I personally receive from my support system at all the clubs I visited and worked at, but also because the Boys and Girls Club helps its members and the kids I work with grow into successful adults, and I want to continue to be a part of that.
Thanks, Adi. He really demonstrates what we want out of that entire work-based learning program. And you're going to meet Destiny and I in a minute. A few other highlights for workforce development that we have been able to accomplish is 37 middle school and high school members from our Eastside Clubhouse were able to participate in a 2-week work-based learning series. And we're able to participate in many of the same programs that Adi talked about. They earn their ServSafe certification, first aid CPR, resume building, job applications. And so we're really excited about that. Many are participating as peer leaders at our Eastside Clubhouse, and another is at our Minnequaw Clubhouse as well. And then we had a recent survey, and our youth are saying that they feel like they have the skills to be successful, and 100% felt that they definitely had those skills. 93% felt that they can express their thoughts and ideas clearly. 86% said they can work with people that are different with them. 79% said they feel comfortable asking questions when they don't understand something. And 73% said that they finish things on time. I'd like to close out as far as our part on our program at our East Side Clubhouse by introducing one of our Youth of the Year, proud East graduate, Destiny Anaya.
Hello, guys. My name is Destiny Anaya. I've been a member at the Boys and Girls Club for 13 years. I was the Youth of the Year of 2021, and I plan to go to CSU Pueblo with my full ride scholarship and study athletic training. So I will be moving that. I'll be moving out next month, so it's pretty cool. Some of the programs that like prepared me for employment was Money Matters. It really taught me how to manage my money, because when I was before that, I would get money and I'd spend it right away. And they taught me how I could budget my money and where to put in my needs and wants, and it just really helped me, because that was my biggest issue when I had money. And there's many times that we had virtual tours. Once COVID hit, we'd be on Zoom and do virtual tours of many colleges. And so that gave me more choices of what I wanted to do for college. I thought about going, not accepting my scholarship, like doing the scholarship and going to the other colleges, but I feel like it's easier to stay at home and just be able to be here. Now, I just don't really want to move away. It's nice here. It's not too bad. And I had my first job as a team leader when I was 13. It was a fun experience. I love the kids. It's taught me how to work with others. And even if you don't like them, you have to just be able to be professional about it. And I also got my second real job at Planet Fitness. It was an internship. So I was able to work with the gym equipment. I learned how to clean all this stuff, because again, it was during COVID. So I was constantly cleaning the machines, and it was really nice. It was a really fun experience. I almost, after the internship, I was almost able to get a permanent spot at the Planet Fitness, which was really cool. And let me think, let's see. Some of the skills that I've brought from the Boys and Girls Club into school is being able to do my homework on time. And if I needed help, it was always okay to ask for help, because some people were really afraid to do that. So it was nice to have the tutors, or sometimes there's certain staff that had their skills. So someone had social studies, and it was easy just to ask for help. And they always had someone to talk to, and the club encouraged me to make a good decision for college, because they always tell you if you go to college, you can be able to get a really good job with whatever, there's always a job for whatever you want to be, And so I just really want to thank the club for the opportunity of being here today, and just all the opportunities I was able to have.
All right. And I think Angela is going to close us out with an update on our van grant that we were awarded. Thank you.
Great. And I think I should get the Brave Award for following two articulate young people that I agreed to do that, which was not very smart on my part. So I'm just going to give you our overall, what our fleet looks like, and some numbers related to that because of the two vans that you helped us to be able to purchase. So we have 14 vehicles in our fleet. 5 of them are minibuses, 8 are 14 passenger vans. And we transport from schools during the school year, and then we take home. So overall, on any given day, for 5 to 10-year-olds, we're transporting 118 kids from school to the club. And then a lot of our clubs are in the school, so the kids just go there right after. 11 to 13-year-olds, we have 24 kids that we're picking up on average, and 14 plus 3. And so on any given day, 145 kids are being transported to our clubs. Another critical piece, certainly that is because they wouldn't be able to come if they didn't have transportation, because either their parents are working or don't have transportation to get them there. But take home is almost as important. So our 5 to 10-year-olds are either getting picked up by their parents. So we have 0 are using it to take home. But our 11 to 13-year-olds, 50 kids are being taken home every night. And for our high school students, 10 are being taken home during the school year. So as we talk to parents, that's 60 daily that are being taken home that otherwise would not be at the club because transportation is that critical to them. And so then I thought I'd give you like an example of one of our clubs in Eastside, since that's who we're talking about. Eastside Transportation in picking up during the school year, they're picking up 35 kids from Bradford Elementary, and then they take them across 4th Street and get them to the Eastside Clubhouse at Risley. We're picking up 12 at Fountain. That's a total of 47, but we also have an elementary school that's real close there, Parkview. So we send a staff and we pick up 35 kids plus every day, and then we just walk them over with a couple staff members. And then we're taking home about 35 middle school kids, middle and high school kids at night. In the summer, what it looks like right now is we're picking up about 20 middle and high schoolers, and we're taking home about 25 middle and high school. So more of them need transportation to go home at night. So that just gives you a quick kind of overview, how critical, which I know it's no news to you, the criticalness of transportation as access. We find that to be the biggest barrier to our programs is transportation. There's kids who just don't get to come because there isn't transportation. And we do get calls from schools like, oh, we need you to come pick up if you can. And, you know, we only have so many vehicles and staff that have the certification to be able to drive. So that's kind of our presentation for those two programs that ARPA funded, and here to answer any questions either from our Vice President of Finance or Chief Operating Officer or myself, or maybe the kids can answer too.
Fantastic. Thank you for that ARPA update, Boys and Girls Club. What questions are there from council? Council Martinez Ortiz.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you all for coming and giving us the report out. Those numbers of like 143, 118, those are real numbers that I think that we were missing last year when we were looking at those transportation, like what they could help. And so thanks for bringing those numbers over here. And to Miss Anaya, I too stayed home or in Pueblo and went to CSU Pueblo, but also worked at the Boys and Girls Club during my undergrad. So you're doing well. Stick with them.
Other questions? Is the transportation for take home, is that door to door or clubhouse to door?
Yeah, it's club to door.
So they're taken to like their home. Okay.
Yeah.
And did I hear a rumor that you guys started transporting for the teen center, the loft?
We did. We're picking up and doing take home as well.
How's that going?
It was clearly a huge
It's-
barrier, and it made a difference as soon as we started doing that. That wasn't our intent of last time I was there, like, we're not going to do transportation, and then we did.
So did that increase your numbers from the
Yeah.
first weekend? What are you up to now?
So I think
'Cause I remember
our-
the first weekend you were at 7, the first night. And so what are you
So-
up to now?
I think we're about 20 is where we're at right now. And that was because of transportation.
And do they have to stay from 1 o'clock to 11 o'clock? So you just take them back and forth throughout that period?
Well, it's been a learning process. What they have done is they did like 2 kind of pickup hours. So one was earlier and then one was a little later, about 4. The drop off happens between 10 and 11. So, you know, if they want to leave in between, then they've got to kind of figure that out, get a ride.
How many certified drivers do you have in your staff?
So so the way that we do that is that you have to be a full-time staff person over age 21. And we do random drug testing and pre-employment drug testing right now. So that's the certification, and then training. They have to go through a training process.
And so is most of your staff meet those qualifications?
Yeah, all of our full-time staff, well, not all, but most are eligible to drive the 15 passenger vans.
Thank you.
Counselor Flores?
When you say certification, you're talking about CDL.
Yeah, our vans don't require that. It's just a regular driver's license for those vans and minibuses.
I just wanted to say, is this the beginning of a process of bringing back all the entities that we gave money through ARPA? This is very refreshing that we're getting a report about what they've done with their money, how much they've spent. And is this going to be a process with all of the entities that we gave ARPA money to, or?
The mayor asked while your work sessions were a little light in the summer that we did a summer season. So we have, I think, an update for the next several weeks, but we don't have anyone planned going into fall. We can add that in periodically throughout the month. You know, those agendas get pretty busy with respect to budget. And as you get to the end of the year, when we wanted to give you a full update on balances for ARPA going into that last year where we have to have ARPA encumbered, is we thought we would start this summer when the agendas were lighter, but we can certainly continue. I think we have 4 entities this summer and maybe 5 still to come. And this is the first.
Yeah, we're always talking about transparency, people, you know, telling us what they're doing with the money that was given through ARPA. And like I said before, this is really refreshing that you've given us all the information and what you're doing. I wanted to make a suggestion. You know, PCC right now is involved in a huge workforce development program. And it may be, maybe they can assist you in finding some of those missing people that are very hard to find. And so I just suggest, you know, maybe you call Patty and see if they've got a graduate that maybe, you know, was involved with the workforce development process there and might be able to help you.
Oh, yeah, thank you, Councilman Flores. That's a great idea. We're trying to every new way, different ways, people in the grocery store line, any place. So certainly to be able to connect with PCC and Dr. Javik would probably be a great resource for us.
Counselor Maestri?
Just one more thing. The 71,000, wasn't it supposed to go to a specific position or staff position?
Can we put that slide back up? Yeah, it was, workforce was the biggest piece for it, but there was several pieces to the 71,000. I don't have, do you
Yeah,
have that?
so I don't have all of it directly in front of me, but there were several positions that the ARPA funds were funding. It was a portion of the East Side Director. It was our workforce development person at the East Side. It also supported some of the accounting department. So there were, I think there were 4. I think I'm still missing one position. It
Esther's
was budget.
data analysis.
Data analysis, yes. So there were 4 positions that it was funding plus supplies and program supplies for it. So those were all inclusive in there.
Yeah, I saw that. I just remember back when we had the ask, it was to add a new position related to the children, you know, due to COVID, work specifically for
It
the
is
children.
specific to the workforce position.
Yeah, and we have been trying to find the right person for that position. It's just been really challenging. And so what we've been able to
It
do.
was that position.
Yeah, that's the main position in there. The other ones are like at 7% or 3%. That was fully funding that position. And we haven't been able to find the person, so we're just doing the work. You know, it's getting piecemealed by different staff people in order to still meet the targets without having that full-time person in that position.
Yeah, we do have staff doing the program, the workforce development programming, but their positions were already funded from other sources. So we want to add to that by adding an additional employee. We just have not found the right person.
And the program has suffered because we're not able to do it as extensive as we had hoped and the partnerships that we had wanted to make connections with. But
Thank you.
good memory.
I do think, though, the data shows that, like, just how impactful the program is. Clearly with the 2 young people before us that said, you know, that showed how impactful the workforce development program is, who did a fantastic job. Both of you did, by the way. And that transportation is a major barrier. And so I'm really I'm really proud and I'm really excited to hear the ARPA update. And it just, I think, continuously shows how impactful Boys and Girls Club is. So thank you for all the work that you do in the community.
Well, I appreciate that. And we really appreciate the partnership that we have with the city that's allowing us to be able to do the work. Thank you all.
Great. Moving on our agenda. Thank you, young people, also for joining us. Okay, friends from Latino Chamber, come on down. That was quite.
Hi. Thank you.
So I see that we're joined by Mr. Comerford, but if you could state your name for the record, that would be great.
My name is Dante Bartolo.
All right, good evening. Thank you for having us here tonight, council and mayor. It was less than a year ago in October that we were asked to be here since we were seeking funding to get more involved with the tourism and hospitality here in the city of Pueblo, as well as Southern Colorado as a whole. And even though it's been less than a year, it's been a lot of work getting involved with the new industry, really transforming us as an organization. We've done a lot of really good work over the last 10 months. And the first part of that actually started as soon as we left this building in October, was strategizing who we would have serve on our board of directors for 2023 and beyond. So since then, we've added the general manager of the Pueblo Convention Center on our board. He's been a huge asset. He's really gone to the plate for us. He's given us updates of what that industry has coming down the pipeline, and he's extended the invite to us to have vendor booths at all of the events at the convention center as well as Memorial Hall. And then we also have the executive director of the Steelworks Center of the West for the museum. Both have been really good additions. And on top of the board of directors actions we've taken, we've also been really busy being a spoke in the SBA Community Navigator program. So that's allowed us to not only serve people and the businesses here in Pueblo, but also all the surrounding counties and regions of Pueblo. So we've really done a really good job of making Pueblo the ultimate business hub for the region. We've had presentations in Florence, Canyon City, Rocky Ford. We'll be going down to Huerfano County, Walsenburg here soon. And that program has also shared a lot of our info. So not only have we gone out there to help them, they've actually come here to stop by the office, and we've given them recommendations on where to eat, where to stay, where to stop, where to shop. And the other part of that has also been we've really worked on making ourselves more inclusive. So we at our board retreat earlier this year, we set a couple of goals, and one was be more inclusive to everybody, regardless of background, culture, the language you speak, education level. So we've really prioritized updating a lot of our info to have English and Spanish translations, as well as make a lot of upgrades to our website so that we're serving every single person we can. And there's really no barrier on why we can't do that. And that's really helped us a lot. It's allowed us to go further, get more involved, diversify our workshops. And another goal from our retreat was to form a tourism and hospitality committee from the board of directors. So we meet every month. We brainstorm a lot, and we actually work through what we've been working on the last couple of months, which is basically just an update since last October when we got the increase in funding. So I'm operating off of the first page here that's titled Events. So these are some of the bigger and newer events that we are hoping to implement within the next calendar year, or I'm sorry, within the next fiscal year. So the first one is the Food Truck Festival. We initially had that slated to happen this July, but with a lot of work that we were tasked with and some of the street and sidewalk improvements, we thought it would be best to hold off until next July. So that'll be a one-day event. We're hoping for more than 10,000 people. We'd like to market all throughout the state, have vendors and food trucks from here as well as throughout the state. And instead of having a community event downtown on either Main or Union Street, we want to hold this event on the street that our office is located on, which is Victoria Avenue. So that'll allow us to showcase a different part of the city and not necessarily be a barrier for business for the restaurants and the gift shops on Union and Main Street. And in fact, it'd actually highlight them more. So people would have to walk by, maybe get them more involved with booths outside their location. And instead of some of the other events where it's a $10, $15, $20 event ticket, we're wanting this to be super affordable for everybody. So we would charge a $5 entry fee and have food trucks, live music, games, giveaways. We're still brainstorming some other ideas like a parade to kick off the festival. And the second event, which ties into the cultural aspect that we talked about in October, was a Day of the Dead celebration parade for the week before Day of the Dead and before Halloween, which would fall on Saturday, October 28th, which we're hoping to happen this year. And we set the bar real low for that, 1,000 people in attendance, but I think we could get 10,000 people because we have plans of marketing that throughout the state and even the northern part of New Mexico, where we have a lot of cultural similarities. So this would really model some of the other parades we have going on or have gone on throughout the year here in the city. And similar to the Food Truck Festival, we want this to also take place on Victoria, starting at the Union Depot all the way down to Grand, and then basically the close-off stage and maybe the judging stage would be in the El Pueblo History Museum parking lot. And then we'd also have food trucks set up throughout the staging area, and then be able to have our office open for restroom use, meeting space use, and really just to showcase our office even more since we're already having the parade go through that. And throughout the parade, we would have judging for the best costume as well as the best parade float. And the next event, which we're actually getting ready to have take place, is our first ever regional tri-chamber after hours mixer. So the first one we have set will take place on Thursday, August 17th. So about 4 weeks away. And we partnered with the Pueblo West Chamber of Commerce, the Royal Gorge Chamber of Commerce in Canyon City, as well as the Small Business Development Center. And this will be held in Penrose at the Brush Hollow Winery. And then we'll have a couple local breweries and restaurants there providing food and drink. And really the idea behind this was to have more continuity and collaboration with Pueblo, along with the surrounding counties. Since a lot of those smaller towns view Pueblo as the small business capital anyway, let's start working better together. So not only would we hold a mixer outside of Pueblo, they would also hold a mixer bringing in their folks, their business owners to Pueblo, and hopefully be able to connect them with hotel rooms, welcome bags. I would hope that all of them have had Pueblo green chili, but if they haven't, that's obviously going to be on the to-do list as well. And the features of this event would obviously be food, drinks, music, giveaways, a lot of networking, presentations of what's going on in that community at the time and what to look forward to. And I will now pass it on to Dante for him to talk about programs and marketing.
Awesome. Thank you, Noah. So next up, we have some programs that we have started to implement or will be implementing or making improvements to. First, we want to talk about Tourism Thursdays, which will be video features that will premiere quarterly to highlight a destination, museum, historical site, recreational area, entertainment space, art gallery, or a place of significance in Pueblo. To provide some background, the Latino Chamber has previously, for about a year now, been highlighting a business once a month through our Member of the Month feature. This is a video typically 3 to 5 or more minutes long. That's filmed, edited, and published by the Latino Chamber on our YouTube and social media pages. And we want to have the Tourism Thursday video features be similarly to these promotions. However, to make them more in depth, maybe serve as a virtual tour of the location, highlight historical stories, and take whatever creative direction works for that location. And our first Tourism Thursday will premiere within the next 2 months. Next up with the Day in the Life Profession Tours. We recently finished our first edition of this program in mid-June. The property manager at the landings at Eagle Ridge provided us with a really gracious tour and explanation of their day-to-day operations, really the good, the bad, kind of what all comes with that position, what to expect, and really what a day in their life looks like. And the Latino Chamber plans to host these scheduled tours quarterly as well, potentially more based on demand. And to successfully move forward with this program, and after speaking with our board, we plan to survey our members to determine where there are current job vacancies. And then based on that data collected, we would be able to find where education is needed and provide a focused series of tours, ultimately to help lower the unemployment rate and in the long term place our local graduates in local job positions. So ultimately, these tours are supposed to be entertaining, they're supposed to be fun, they're supposed to be informative, but also to help increase the knowledge and visibility of our workplace opportunities here in Pueblo and retain our young people here in Pueblo. Next is our community scavenger hunt, which we plan to host in 2024, and just allow community members to explore Pueblo's businesses, history, and all of our destinations. And prizes will be collected to encourage this participation in the scavenger hunt, and a system such as a punch card or a photo posting platform may be used to verify winners. And to ensure the success of this program, the Latino Chamber will rely heavily on its community partners. Next up, the Supporting Pueblo Marketplace, which has historically allowed businesses, makers, creatives, and more to use the platform to list and sell their products and gift cards. And in order to enhance Supporting Pueblo's impact, several updates and additions will be needed. First, a refresh of the business directory page will allow businesses that list on the site to become more visible, resulting in more sales. Next, from feedback we've received, both the real estate and lodging page on Supporting Pueblo would help individuals and businesses in those fields. For example, allowing realtors to list their information and their listings on the site, they would be able to create another avenue to promote their work. Next, on the hospitality and tourism workshops, several business support needs have been identified by our members, specifically those in the nonprofit and tourism hospitality fields. These needs or these topics include, but are not limited to, grant writing, fundraising, event planning. And the Latino Chamber has hosted seminars and workshops of various topics over the years. But moving forward, we want to make sure we incorporate the topics I listed. And sometimes that may involve bringing people within our community or people outside of our community to come and speak and lead workshops on those topics. And that we believe that would be greatly assist some of our local organizations. Next, if you turn, we have some of our marketing efforts. And first, I wanted to start off with the Pueblo merchandise. So all of us at the Latino Chamber, we're very Pueblo proud. I plan to be here in Pueblo for life. It's my hometown, and I can't imagine myself living anywhere else. And the Latino Chamber wants to provide additional ways for members of the community to show their Pueblo pride. Towards the back of your packet, you'll see some various designs that may be used as stickers and potentially to make other merchandise such as T-shirts. And these are just a few initial drafts that we're happy to put out in our community. And additionally, we would like to continue our collaborations with local organizations and have items that may be used as giveaways and be sold on the Supporting Pueblo Marketplace. For example, we're currently working with Taffy's to potentially create a unique, special colored and flavored popcorn. Next, our printed directory. We would like to bring this printed directory back to highlight member organizations, local businesses, destinations, and more in Pueblo. And these directories will be provided at hotels and airports throughout our region, not just in Pueblo, to increase our presence. Same thing with tourism guides, which will be brief guides and fact sheets that are being developed to highlight Pueblo's food, culture, activities, attractions, history, events. And once again, these guides will be made visible throughout our region to entice travelers to come into Pueblo and for for organizations to host their event in Pueblo. Next, we want to talk about the day in the life of a Puebloan videos. So we were recently able to purchase a drone to expand our membership benefits and to develop promotional videos to highlight Pueblo. And to do this right, the chamber will also need to obtain a license through FAA and to be able to use the drone for commercial purposes and promotional purposes. And we will respect all the no-fly zones in our area. With that being said, a big plan for this drone is to show what it is like to be a Puebloan, to visit our wonderful areas in Pueblo, for example, landing at the Pueblo Memorial Airport, taking a stroll along the Riverwalk, our nature trails, the reservoir, and more. And finally, our recruitment letter, which you can also see after the designs in your packet, has been developed in order to encourage organizations outside of Pueblo to host their events here in Pueblo. And this is just one of the many ongoing marketing techniques that the chamber is using to help increase the spending in our food, lodging, event spaces, and other industries. And with that, I will turn it back over to Noah.
And a couple other acts that we've been able to partake in over the last couple of months. Claro, an organization based out of Denver, is hosting a summit at CSU Pueblo the first week of August. And a couple months ago, they called us asking to connect them for more than 75 hotel rooms. So we were able to do that. And then we also had the awesome honor of preparing welcome bags for all 200 attendees. So we're in the process of doing that as well. So we've solicited all our members as well as some community businesses to provide swag items, brochures, coupons, hopefully work with the state fair to bring some of those people back into Pueblo after the summit. And after the stickers, you'll see the recruitment letter that we typed up. So this is a letter that we'd like to send out to really any business that doesn't necessarily have current operations in Pueblo. Some of the Fortune 500 companies that operate on a worldwide scale. So I think that we need to really set the targets large. And most of the companies here obviously are familiar here. They're not renting hotel rooms. They're not asking for welcome bags. And we don't have to have huge conferences come here every single week. If we could get a couple organizations here and there, obviously the bigger ones would be nice, but if we could get some of the smaller ones to host employee outings, golf tournaments, you never know what the impact of that could be. They could be future residents. Maybe next summer they take a vacation here, open a business here, open a satellite office here. I think a lot of those bigger companies really have no idea what Pueblo is. So if we can put Pueblo on the map in front of the bigger organizations that have the staff power, have the dollars, I think the impact is endless. And then finally, I'd like to wrap up on the back sheet of the packet. You'll see a funding breakdown of the $100,000 that we were granted at the start of this year. And I broke this up into payroll, events, and then supplies and other. So any number that you see in the middle column, the cost, is either something that's already been paid or is a final payment that we anticipate that has been paid or will be paid. And then we do have a couple projected figures since we're still in the middle of the year. Some of these are based off of hours worked and things like that. And all in all, we've spent close to 30% of that, but we have the rest of it allocated over the next 5 months. So the first part is basically the payroll for the business development coordinator, which is sitting to my left, and he's done an amazing job. He's super committed to his role as well as the organization and Pueblo as a whole. And then in the middle portion, you'll see the events broken out. So the tri-chamber mixer, that $3,000 figure is paying for the shuttle bus. So we're shuttling people up to Penrose. And then that also covers our portion of food, drinks, and some of the giveaways for the event. And then the Day of the Dead parade, we have projected at $12,000. So that includes all the mapping, the tenting, the registration tables and things like that. And then the food truck festival, even though that's slated to begin in July of 2024, we want to get a head start on that as soon as possible. So we'd like to get at least the first half of expenses paid for this year so that we can start marketing heavily at the start of next year. And hopefully after Q1, have most of it wrapped up, and it's just a matter of selling tickets at that point. And then in terms of marketing, like I just talked about, the welcome bags that we prep for Claro, we've obviously solicited local organizations to provide items for those bags, but we also want to purchase locally made products so that we're really highlighting Pueblo in all aspects. So local gift cards to the restaurants, the gift shops, the antique shops, as well as locally made gifts that are sold in gift shops in the mall, as well as the El Pueblo History Museum. And then some of the other marketing efforts include the folders. So we actually gave you all a copy of what those look like. So when we do business presentations outside of Pueblo, or even here, we're providing those with the marketing info that we're going off of that day. And then Solaros coffee bags. So Solaros provides a special blend of coffee for the Latino Chamber. We want to be able to provide that in most of the welcome bags. One, we're highlighting ourselves, and two, we're highlighting a local business who has a great name in Solar Roast. And then as Dante mentioned, some enhancements to the Supporting Pueblo Marketplace. We're wanting that to really be a one-stop shop for any business resource digitally. The tourism guides, which we will provide to the visitors and hotel attendees. We're hoping to bundle that with their hotel key so that it's not something they have to pick up off the nightstand, the bed, or on the ground. It's something that's visibly in their hand the second they open their hotel room. And we want to be able to break out the restaurants, the gift shops based off of zip code, list some of the happy hour or specials going on at the time, as well as events happening in that week. And hopefully that would entice people to stay maybe a weekend or another night opposed to just a one night stay here. And then the supplies are just some of the minor tasks to help some of the other stuff fall into place, like postage for the recruitment letters that you see. We did purchase a Pueblo flag through the Leadership Pueblo class. So we're, as Dante mentioned, Pueblo proud. I hope to stay here for the rest of my life. And I look at that flag every day. So that's why we do what we do. And with that, I will ask for questions.
Great. Thank you so much for all that information and the folder itself, Mr. Comerford and Mr. Bartolo. What questions are there from council? Councilor Flores.
That was exhausting. You guys are doing a lot of stuff. This is focused just on tourism because you do so many other things. I mean, you have, how many members do you have at this point?
We have about 565, which are primarily located in Pueblo, but we have members up in Denver, New Mexico, California, Utah. So we have a really good blueprint.
And just so people know, I mean, you're involved in, you also have the classrooms in the back of your building that you provide education, leadership training, all of that stuff. And could you elaborate on that a little bit? Because I know you've gotten new hardware and software for that area with current equipment.
Sure. So the meeting space that Councilor Flores is referring to is what's called the Business Learning Center, which is in the back of our office. It has a capacity of about 30 to 35 people. And over the last year, we've really prioritized updating that drastically. So we've added a green screen for marketing videos, video clips, a professional photo box for sellers to take professional photos of. It allows them to change the background color, light it up, put different logos in the back of it. We have laptops that businesses can now rent out. And then we also have computer workstations set up for business owners or really anyone, whether they're staying in a hotel or live here, to use and to search the internet on, use for business purposes, print, copy, scan materials over. And then one of the other items we recently purchased was a digital smartboard, which is similar to what you'd see in most of the classrooms. It's touchscreen. You can connect your phone to it, multiple laptops to it, Bluetooth to it. And we hold about 2 to 4 workshops in that space alone per month. So that's been a really good way for us to get a lot of newer people in the door, whether they're Puebloans or not. And we expect that to only grow from here.
just my last, it isn't a question, but a suggestion. One of the things that I hear down in that area is when tourists come, they don't realize that there are probably 20 restaurants that they could access by just walking from the main hotels, the Marriott. And I would, nobody's doing this right now, but it would be nice to have that brochure that goes into every hotel room at the Marriott, the Springfield Suites, where you can identify those 20 restaurants, and I'm just guessing, but I know there's at least 20 that they could access by just walking from their hotel room and with a map and maybe you can enlist all these restaurants to pay for it too through putting their information on this brochure. But I think all the hotels would put those in their room if you and then put an ad there for them, and that there would be no cost to them other than making that available. I think a lot of people that stay in hotels, they don't like to go out too far, but in this case, we have a lot of restaurants down in that area. So just a suggestion. Thank you. That was a great report.
Counselor Martinez Ortega.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also just have one brief suggestion. As I was reading the Day in the Life of Pueblo drone videos, I think it's page 4. And I was listening to all the services that you offer, some of the small businesses with like the photo booth for like, taking shots, real professional shots and things like that. As you said that you've picked up some drone equipment, maybe think also about not lending that out necessarily, but it's a little labor intensive, but to turn over some drone footage of their businesses to help with that very attractive that wide shot screen that elicits emotion and everything that makes you feel good to want to go there and eat or spend money whatever that is. So think about offering those drone services. I know it's labor intensive, but it could pay off dividends.
Counselor Atencia.
Sure. Dennis's idea is really a good idea. I used to do that with the few wrestling tournaments that I was involved in. We did a program, and within that program, we solicited restaurants from all over town. And people from out of town literally would drive to where the restaurants were because they were recommended in the program. So it does work.
Counselor Maestri.
Thanks for coming tonight, gentlemen. I'm not exhausted. By what you had to say. I know that we increased our give to you out of the 2023 budget from 11,000 to 100,000, and you came forward and you're showing us exactly how you're spending it. And I appreciate that. We don't get that from everyone that we allocate money to. So thank you for coming this evening.
Well, I'm really excited about these events. I realize that they haven't happened yet, but between a food truck festival, which I think is really great and attracts kind of a younger crowd, I think that's very exciting. The Dia de los Muertos parade, I think, is going to be really cool. And then I think it's a really smart idea to collaborate with regional chambers to get, because Penrose is less than 45 minutes away, and I think that that's a brilliant move. How many staff are in the Latino Chamber, Noah?
So we have 4 and then a part-time office volunteer, but we're hoping to add at least 1 by the end of the year. So we're a small but mighty staff, and we all have the heart. We all show up ready to work, and we're all super creative, and we all love Pueblo. So we're doing really good work. We have a very active board, a very active foundation board, as well as all of the ambassadors we have. So we're able to cover a lot of ground pretty quick.
And with 4 FTEs, it's a lot of work for 4 FTEs. For the Supporting Pueblo, how was that doing? I know that really was kind of born from COVID and getting, like a local based Amazon. Are other communities across the state utilizing it, or is it mainly Puebloans?
Right now, it's just Puebloans, but we do have basically a 5-year plan to get a model like that, whether it looks like a franchise model or not, or have some of the economic development corporations in those communities model that for their own good. But realistically, that program can exist anywhere. And we want to be able to ship any product sold in Pueblo anywhere in the country. So if you want to order a bushel of chili or a gift card or a gift basket from Seabells and you live in Idaho, we should be able to make that happen.
Yeah, I think that would be.
And the Pueblo Food Project also uses the site to collect orders since they don't have the infrastructure for their own site yet, as well as CNC disposal. So you're able to go and purchase a dumpster for residential or commercial use. So it's really become a multifaceted website. And hopefully within 2 to 3 years, we want to be able to model a local version of DoorDash on there, as well as a local version of Expedia. Any service that you could do on a corporate site, let's model that and keep those dollars here. Let's provide jobs for our people, not a headquarter office in California or somewhere overseas.
Brilliant. And is the October 28th Dia de los Muertos parade, is that set in stone?
Very close. We actually owe Mr. Andrew Hayes a call, so hopefully we can get that wrapped up by August 1st.
Fantastic. Well, we will definitely get it on the agenda. And if we can, if we can have a city float, that would be kind of cool. Other thoughts for the Latino Chamber?
Something silly.
Counselor Winter?
I have something silly. So there's this little town in Ireland, and every year they break their own record on the whole town dresses up like something. Did you read about this, Nick? Is that why you're smiling? But the whole town dressed up like Dolly Parton. So then they had a photo, and then they break it every year. That they break that record every year. So on Day of Dead, maybe you should do like the face paint that they do on Day of Dead, and try to get 1,000 people in for a photo, something like that.
With our drone.
With your drone, exactly. That would be a cool photo.
Great. Well, we appreciate your update with the funds, Latino Chamber. And just to clarify, you did submit a budget for the 2024 city budget. Is that correct?
Correct. That was the second to last week of June. So
Fantastic.
about a month ago.
Great. Well, thank you, Mr. Bartolo. Thank you, Mr. Comerford, for that presentation. We look forward to seeing you in October for that parade.
Thank you.
Take care, guys.
Okay, moving right along on our agenda, the next and the kind of final piece is a gondola project feasibility study update from Mr. McWilliams. So if you can come to the podium.
So Nick, had you seen that, the town in Ireland? Oh, okay. Because the photo of, they have men, all these, big overweight men dressed up like Dolly Parton too. It's hilarious. The photo is hilarious. But anyway, I thought that you had seen that story. It was cute.
Hi, guys. Welcome back. Good seeing you again. Anyway, I was asked to come in and just give an update and answer questions on the gondola project regarding the feasibility study. Please stop me. I'm going to just speed through this because everyone's seen it, but then we'll just get right to questions. So just so there's a few people that probably haven't seen this, but very few. Overall, our purpose is to improve the economic development and the draw to downtown Pueblo. Right now, our biggest asset in the city is the Riverwalk. How do we expand that? How do we actually make that grow? How do we do better than we've done in the past? That's our goal. You guys know that I'm born and raised in this community and really want the best for all the businesses downtown, as well as all the supporting businesses in the surrounding areas. So what we did is my partner, who is Dana Crawford, she happens to be the probably most well-known in the nation historic redeveloper, as well as downtown economic developer. She is now worked on something on the order of 53 or 56 different metro areas, from Atlanta to Portland to et cetera, et cetera. So I'm lucky enough to sit in on a lot of these meetings. And so we get to compare what other communities are doing around the nation. And one of the things that I saw that was very common amongst all of these communities is the fact that they take their very best asset, wherever that is, and they build out from there. So a lot of different communities came in and they would try to build an asset that was, so say, for example, for us on the east side or the west side or Pueblo West or wherever it is. And the problem with that was the fact that they didn't have enough other infrastructure to support that expansion and that new asset. So right now, in Pueblo's case, what we have is we have a great asset that just needs expanding. That asset being downtown also drives the rest of the community. So it drives workforce, it drives the education system, gets these kids to stay, you know, the next generation in town. And what we need is more of a draw, right? We also have an economic draw that we are in need of in Pueblo, Colorado. And you guys know that true economic development is bringing money from the outside in. It's not recirculating it within our community. It's how do we draw people from the outside into our community? So to do that, we obviously need to do a couple things in this town. One is we need to have a better internal image. We also need to have a better external image. To do that, we have to have a better conversation within Pueblo, as well as we need to promote that conversation out to the rest of the state and the rest of the world. So it's back to that positivity. We have a bad habit in this town of starting a conversation in a negative manner, saying, well, it's Pueblo, so, and then we go into something negative. So what I'd like to do is change that narrative and change it into something positive, where this is Pueblo. So we have this great new gondola, for example. We have this great river walk. We have these great businesses that we're trying to support. All these businesses really just need traffic. So how do we drive traffic to our downtown area, which then also expands out? And also, how do we solve some problems along the way? So when we were looking at this with Dana and with all of these other communities around the nation, what we saw was you start with your best asset and you work your way out, because that's where you have the best success. So to do so, our thought is we put in this gondola. The gondola, the reason we go that direction is many reasons. One is because the expansion of the gondola, even in the downtown area or further out, is the cheapest infrastructure we can get. So as far as the bang for the buck and the actual dollar spent, it is about the same price as building one parking structure. So if we build a parking structure as an example, or we build a gondola that actually markets for us, changes the conversation within Pueblo to a more positive conversation, and winds up having a better image for us to portray to the rest of the outside world, we thought that's a very positive thing to do. So our plan was, I think last time Lori asked, it was actually a good suggestion to go to, say, the state fair. That's a good thing to do as phase two. And our expansion actually would even go much further than that. So the conversation I had with the world's expert. So he is this gentleman that lived in Switzerland forever, has done this for almost 50 years, all around the world. And he said, Ryan and Dana, I really appreciate what you're trying to do in Pueblo, but you're not thinking big enough. And you're thinking sort of in the wrong direction. And I said, well, that's the first time we've been accused of that. So please tell me more. He said, well, what do you guys have to sell in Pueblo, Colorado? And I said, well, our biggest asset's our Riverwalk. That's why we're starting there. And he said, yeah, that's right. He said, but I've been doing this hundreds and hundreds of communities around the world. And you have something that is very valuable. You have the West. And you have this iconic image of the West. And Pueblo, Colorado has a lot to offer. He said, I've been on the internet for all of 5 minutes, and I think I know better what you guys might need and what you could sell. So I said, okay, great, tell me more. And he said, well, you have the Pueblo Reservoir, which has, I'm looking up online right now, 4.6 million visitors last year. He said, how many of those visitors come into Pueblo to actually stay for the weekend or the week? I said, well, very few, and it's just like Runyon. They're a little bit disconnected from our city center. So therefore, people come in, they spend a little bit of time in those two locations. They'll go to their ball game at Runyon, and then they go home. Or they will go out on their boat, and then they will go home. They don't spend enough time and money in our community. He said, exactly. And between downtown and the reservoir, as an example, you have one of the most iconic images in the world. And he said, in my opinion, you probably have the second best ride of anywhere that I've ever done a gondola project. He said, if you take your initial idea and you do phase one, and you have downtown, which now is served by the surface parking at Runyon, which we explained to him. You have limited your downtown traffic because now it's more of a walking community and it's a little bit better for shops. And you also then have taken care of some of the infrastructure for getting from place to place for all walks of life, from grandmothers all the way down to toddlers. You now have done some really good things in downtown, but you also need to expand that out as a phase two to get to the reservoir. So what we're proposing right now, Dana and myself, as well as there's a whole team that she has behind her, is to look at the feasibility of putting in this gondola. The feasibility study would be an evaluation of downtown. And what it does is it does more than just the gondola. It actually evaluates what the cost is for a gondola. That's one thing. But it also evaluates what is the outside opportunity that we have to draw people in. So what that means is we actually are going out saying, other communities that have similar assets, how do we actually benefit from those similar type of assets? And what sort of influx of tourism can we draw in? So they're going to, from an outside perspective, evaluate Pueblo and say, who can we draw in? What can we charge them if we draw them in to even ride a gondola or anything else? And use a lot of that data to evaluate our downtown to be able to make a business case to say whether or not a gondola is a feasible asset for this community. That evaluation, that feasibility study, is about an 80, and Nick may know this exactly, we've sent this to council, the proposal, but it's a $86,000 feasibility study. What has happened to date is the county is on board for half of that feasibility study. The urban renewal, Pura, is on board to also support it. They can support it at about a $5,000 level. We would like the city to be on board for the other half-ish of the proposal to do the feasibility study, which is say $40,000. And then what we would do is we're doing two things with that. One is we're sending a message to developers such as Dana and all of her friends who would actually invest in this thing in the long run. Because what we're saying is Pueblo is now a community that is united, that understands how development works, that understands that this might be something worthwhile, that is also going through the steps to say, the county is able to work with the city, is able to work with urban renewal, and we as Pueblo are actually on board to do something. One of our problems, which you guys are very aware of, is Denver investors, outside Colorado investors. One of their issues is it's hard to do business in Pueblo. So they don't bring money to our community for expansion. We want to send an opposite message in this, and there's no one better on the planet that I am aware of anyway than Dana and her group, because they talk to absolutely everyone. The reason Fuel and Iron is here, Dana Crawford. When those people went in and actually asked whether or not they should come to Pueblo, it's Dana's friends that are funding most of that. And they go to Dana and ask whether or not that is a worthwhile venture. If she would have said no, we wouldn't have things like Fuel and Iron. Same thing happens with whatever the next venture is. Doesn't matter who that is coming up next, but we would like other people to say positive things about Pueblo. And we would like to have Pueblo come together to say, yeah, we're at least going to be professional, look at a feasibility study, try to solve some of our issues, try to promote our community. When we have 75,000 cars a day that go by on I-25 and they see a gondola above, they're going to know where Pueblo, Colorado is. They're going to know where the downtown area is and the Riverwalk. And they might actually stop and help visit and support these businesses so that the next restaurant can come in, the next small shop can come in. So again, we looked at this from a perspective of how do we spend the least amount of money, solve the most problems, get the biggest bang for our buck, and allow future growth so that we can build onto this. So does it go to the art center? Does it go out to the reservoir? All of those things are why we're thinking that a gondola makes sense. With that, I will turn it over to you guys for any questions. Love to answer anything.
Great. Thank you for that update, Mr. McWilliams. Counselor Martinez Ortega.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. McWilliams, for coming and getting us excited about the possibility of a gondola project. I have a couple of questions. I am actually interested in the feasibility study. And even if it's not translating exactly into a gondola project, we'll have an idea of what a big project like that can do and what it would look like and the impact it would have on our community. Okay, but the two questions specifically for the gondola project is, and this one's just, do you have any clue what this could cost?
Yeah, absolutely. So pro and con of this, because I'll tell you sort of, hopefully this is a good data point. So you guys, when we're making decisions in the future, we also use this same data point because it's very valid. We proposed this a couple of years ago and we got a proposal from multiple gondola suppliers. And the cost was around 18 to 20 million. Unfortunately, things have changed in the last couple of years, and now we're probably in the 28 to 30 million dollar range.
And that would be to stretch all the way to the dam?
And then that is north side of the Riverwalk, south side of the Riverwalk, and to Runyon. So that's phase one.
Yeah.
But the cost is really an interesting thing as well. So the cost is all in the stations. So even if we go all the way to the dam, the cost doesn't double because it's only really the station out there that causing the cable and the columns are actually pretty inexpensive in the whole scheme of things.
Yeah.
So those stations, the other value in phase one is part of that station is because we veer off in a Y. So there's sort of a core station in some places that is a little more expensive to allow us future growth in different directions. So the additions aren't double. They're maybe half yet again, somewhere like that. And I believe out to the dam winds up being 7.1 miles is what I think he told me on the phone. And he said overall the cost would probably increase it by 30% if we did it all at once. So one thing we could look at too, because right now we're evaluating downtown. If we wanted to expand that a little bit and ask them to do a bigger feasibility study or as phase two, either one, we have that option and get those experts in again to give us the info. But it'd be, again, to your point, it's more of a regional information packet that we can use for any sort of project.
Yeah, well, have we thought of where this money would come from?
Yeah, so at one point when we were working with the county, Commissioner Ortiz actually had this all mapped out. So we actually do have a really good idea how we could run a couple different revenue streams. And he had already had a little over 10 or 11 million sort of allocated for this, for the actual project itself that he could identify. And then the rest we still had to find, but he had really good ideas for that. So what I would suggest we do is, even though he is no longer in that seat, he said he would be very happy to work through all the financial details. You know, he's a pretty smart financial guy, and he'll help us through to figure out what we would do. The part of that issue though is how much private involvement is there versus how much public involvement. So part of that winds up being how much does then, after we do this feasibility study, if it turns out well, how much can we get other entities, say in Denver or other places, to invest in our community? Because this is part of a draw to pull them in.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Sure.
Counselor Flores.
You know, you and I've had a couple of conversations in the past about an idea that I had seen, and it was a project called, well, it was actually, it's in effect now, and it's called Skytran, which
Yep.
is very similar because
Yep.
it would be, and it actually differs in that it's not a gondola, but it actually takes a person from point to point, and then as they get off, they're actually kind of like in a futuristic golf cart.
Yeah, more individual pods.
Pods, yeah, they're pods. But I've always been fascinated with this, but you're right. What we have in Pueblo is a lot of events, but we don't have a magnet that kind of brings people, somebody in Denver waking up and saying, I got to go see this thing.
Yeah.
It has a lot of possibilities. I guess I was interested in this private-public partnership that everybody's using that phraseology, in that you do see that it's a possibility that private enterprise could contribute to the cost of this.
Absolutely.
And I think what I like the most is that we don't have to purchase any land. All of the infrastructure we already own as a city.
Exactly.
And so all of these posts and wires and stuff would be basically, we own the land that these posts are all going to be,
Yeah, sitting on. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that kind of minimized the cost and stuff. I was going to ask our city attorney as to whether this 40,000 plus that we would contribute to this feasibility could be taken out of the vendor fee fund. Since we're talking about tourism here, we're talking about,
I'd have to review it. That vendor fee has specific.
Right.
I'd have to review that. I don't know off the top of my head. Sorry.
Yeah, it might be something that would make that decision a lot easier, because in my mind, that's what that vendor fee should be looking at, not only providing money to the chamber as an example, or the art center, wherever we distribute it. But here's a possibility of increasing our tourist.
Yeah,
numbers.
absolutely.
So
Yeah.
if that's something you could look at, I certainly would appreciate it.
And just as a side note, just for your information, one of the conversations that we've had with some of the investor groups is the fact that if something like this does go in, Ms. Crawford, her background's in hotels, for example. She very involved in hotels. Some of her groups, though, are very interested in then bringing private money down to not only put up money into the gondola, but they would put up a hotel beside it. So those are the things that this draws.
Great, thank you.
Counselor Maestri.
Would we have to increase parking out at Runyon Field? I mean, anybody if we're doing a tourist, we don't want to limit it to just those at Runyon Field.
Absolutely. Yeah. So yes, to answer that directly is the concept would be we land sort of on the north side of Runyon Field, where all of that lot is sort of more or less a surface lot. And what our suggestion would probably be is that we at least gravel that lot or pave it, one of the two, but it winds up being much more parking for the whole downtown area as well as for Runyon.
And what is the exact route? I mean, that would be nice to see, is a drone footage of
Yeah.
the route
Yeah.
of the gondola.
And I think that
How much on the ground would we have to improve in order to make it the aesthetics?
right. That's part of the feasibility study actually, is the route designation, due to the fact that even a degree off changes the cost quite drastically. So part of the feasibility study would actually determine the exact route that this would take, but more or less right now it's straight line from Runyon Field, north of Runyon, to the south end of the Riverwalk by Water Tower Place. Then a direct line from there to the north end of the Riverwalk, up by the Railway Foundation.
Do you have a written commitment from the county?
Yes, we do.
They voted on giving you the money. And when did they do that?
So I believe they did that about 3 months ago. that Mr. Ortiz actually had that committed in a fund. Now that Ms. Escar is in that position, though, they asked me to come back yet again, same thing.
Oh, so it's
And
just
I
allocated, but it's earmarked, I guess.
yeah, and I went back just a month ago, probably. We went through everything. What they are doing right now is, that's how Pura got involved, is they would like to see the whole community involved, city, of course, as the key partner, but they wanted Urban Renewal to also write a letter, which I don't know if Mr. Pacheco has written the letter yet or not, but they are allocating money, I think, out of ARPA, but I'm not sure. ARPA funds now.
And
We'd have to ask them.
what about, is CDOT going to allow you to go over I-25?
Yeah, so there's two issues. One is CDOT and one is the railroads. If you know the CDOT background, that is all, Dana Crawford is sort of really good friends with the lady who runs CDOT. So all that is good. I happen to have all of the railroad stuff taken care of as well with Union Pacific and BNSF. So yeah, those are the only two aerial issues we have.
So because Dana Crawford is really good friends with the lady that runs CDOT, if there's a regulation, you're saying if regulations say that you can't cross I-25, their friendship is going to override that?
I am not saying that at all. No,
Well-
and there is no regulation that prevents that. So it's just like a bridge or anything else. You just have to have the appropriate safety measures in place. The current conversations we've had with them, they are thinking that we probably just need to have a net underneath the gondola itself to basically act as our belt and suspenders safety.
And as you extend out to the reservoir, would you be following the river?
Exactly. Yeah, you got it. That is the highest value route.
And would that be allowed?
Yeah, so that is then with the Conservancy District. So the nice part about that is we have one entity to deal with. So that really makes it nice. The other thing that is happening with that route is the fact that, you know, the marina was recently purchased by a gentleman in Colorado Springs. So he is now operating. His name is Kevin O'Neill. Are you aware of that fact?
No.
Kevin is putting in $25 million-ish into the North Shore Marina now. So not only does, as a private entity, he is already looking at Pueblo, which is really a positive thing. He runs Catalyst Campus in Springs, if you're familiar with that. Very big DoD contractor and working with the Air Force and others. But that whole connection then to the marinas also is a very big plus, because now when we wind up going wherever we land at the end of the day, based on route feasibility at the end, and again, that's based on just the straight line cable availability. That route then determines whether or not we can go to people like Kevin, who's already putting $25 million into our community, and improve his program, but also ask him to bring in more funding at the same time to do other things and further development.
And so if this is such a great idea, why are you coming to the city and asking for the money for the feasibility study? Because in the end, it's privately owned if you decide to develop it.
No, it's a public-private partnership.
Well, Fuel and Iron was a private partnership in getting it established. The public doesn't own any part of it now.
Right, and the state put in 2.6 million into that. Are you aware of that?
But the state does not have any ownership in it.
Correct. But there's multiple things. One is we have to show investors that we are pro-business. That's probably the biggest issue we've got. So someone else asked me that same question recently, and they said, well, why doesn't Dana Crawford just build this? Right. And that's sort of the same question. Why doesn't a private developer just do this? And it's for one very simple reason. They don't want to do business in a community that does not want them involved.
Mhm.
We have to, as a community, show them that we are pro-business, that we would like to have people like Dana and her friends here. Otherwise, they're not going to spend money in this community.
And if we're going to look at it that way, why wouldn't we take it from, why wouldn't they approach Pedco about it?
It's not well, we could, but Petco's primary charter is job creation. And we will have jobs, but it is nowhere near enough to help fund. It'd be irrelevant in the scheme of things for the money.
I mean, we did a local, we've done some local businesses that are smaller. I'm sure that the amount of employees are just about the same as would be
Sure.
required for. the
Yeah,
gondola.
but even if you got $2 million from Petco, it's irrelevant in the scheme of things. Where's the other $25 million come from?
Yeah, there seems to just be a lot of development that's going to have to take place in addition to the gondola in order to get the grounds right. And what the view of what's below the gondola besides the Riverwalk, because once it hits into, more of a isolated, we don't have control over people's backyards or their front yards. If it's going past residential, we don't have any control over that. And
Correct.
so those are just some of the issues. It's
Yeah.
not like a mountain.
That's why the route feasibility study is so
like being
necessary.
a resort where it's basically mostly public land,
Right, right.
and you could have control over that. You don't have control over private.
That's why two things are important. One is
And
the
it would be
feasibility study
nice
to determine the route.
Invest into Runyon Field and get it complete and more, more up to date in the things they need. But we're always putting the cart before the horse, in a sense. Mhm.
You have to have the money to improve Runyon, and part of that is the draw.
$80,000 is a good investment from the community back into Runyon. If we were.
And that's a
it's-
county asset, though.
And
That's not a
so-
city asset, right?
It's not.
It's a county asset.
Correct. But so with this, it's a partnership.
You got it. That's what we're
It's
saying.
a partnership.
Yep,
So
city,
I would
county.
rather invest in Runyon Field along with the county investing in Runyon Field and get it up to, into better condition. And so.
Yeah, and I could see that if you want to be focused at
especially
just
with
one
Runyon
spot.
Lake, it needs some help too. And
What
if
is
we're,
that?
Runyon Lake needs help too. And, here we are, we're putting a gondola up and the things on the ground aren't finished. And so that's just how I feel about it.
Okay,
Good deal.
Counselor Winter.
Okay, so I have an email. I communicated with Amber Billings and she is the right-of-way manager for CDOT. She isn't aware of this project at all. She did help Breckenridge go over Highway 9 when that was put in. I lived in Summit County 16 years and I've been here since '04. And they were talking about doing that. Getting with CDOT and getting this whole thing done because they actually diverted Highway 9 to get people up the mountain because you needed to get them up there.
Right.
They were talking about that for at least 10 years while I was there. And that just happened just a few years ago. So
So you're saying it's doable. I like that.
I'm saying that what we need to do before we give you $45,000 is to make sure we can go over Highway 25 with cars going 75 miles an hour.
Right.
Now, when it goes over Highway 9, of course, Highway 9 was diverted, so that traffic goes really, really slow anyway before it speeds up again. So it's not really a highway. I know that the town, she also said in here that Gibson is also working on something right now. They want to go over on a stretch of I-70. But that is, that's just in the talk phase right now. So I think we need to find that out first before we throw money at this. Also, I don't know anybody that would invest in a gondola. I mean, that's nothing but a big expense, employees and maintenance. They get nothing for that. If they were buying real estate, maybe, but not this. And they're not going to be able to charge $200 per person to get on the gondola.
That is correct.
Yeah.
I'll give you a
So
data
I would get
point.
no money back
Yeah.
from investing into a gondola. I don't see it.
Okay, and that's good.
And
but
also
that's-
just as,
That's an
and also
assumption.
the CDOT letter, just to point out, they don't know anything about this.
That one person doesn't, I'm sure.
She is the right of way manager.
Sure.
Okay.
But, and just to make sure, they have done this before, right? And Highway 9.
I told you why they did it on Highway 9
Okay,
as well.
all good. Well,
Right.
so just to address that comment, there's two things, I guess. One is, I'm sure you don't know anyone, and that's fine. I do know someone who's actually investing in gondola project right now. So Dana, all of her friends that are in Idaho Springs are putting in a gondola currently. So there are people out there that do this, whether you know them or not, sort of not exactly the point. The issue.
I'm
as
just
to-
repeating what the right of way manager told me.
I
That's
was,
all I'm
I was
doing.
addressing the money into a gondola
No, I
project.
mean, she didn't mention anything about Idaho Springs going on either.
That's happening right now anyway. So as far as that goes, Highway 9 and other places have done this. We appreciate that. And if we don't want to do this, I understand that some people may not think this is a good idea. All well and good.
Right, right.
I think the problem we have with that is.
So I was just going to ask you, what's happened to 5 and 6? I mean, Dana was really going to bring all her friends. in
Yeah,
for that.
Black Hills, they came in here and gave you guys a presentation on that, didn't they? They pulled out. So we had everything agreed to. All the lawyers agreed to everything. We had a purchase and sale agreement agreed to, and then Black Hills
she
called
had-
us on a Sunday morning.
So you had a good 7 years to find investors.
I
That
want to
wasn't
make
the
sure
issue.
that if
Black
that's,
Hills pulled out.
A concern.
No, I'm just, no,
Have a
it's,
work
it's
session
valid
that's
because he's
separate.
talking about Dana and her friends.
But
That's
if-
why it's
but
valid.
if that's.
And I can ask anything I want.
It's I know, Counselor Winter, I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's a separate project. If that's.
I'm
the
done,
case-
I'm done anyway.
Okay.
I just wanted to point that out with Dana.
Okay. I want to, I know Counselor Atencio has questions.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. This is exactly what I've been harping about for the last year. Think bigger, Pueblo. We just heard 15 reasons why we can't do it. Feasibility study might give us 15 reasons why we can do it. And then we got to make a decision after that. What's best for Pueblo? What's going to make us bigger? What's going to make us better? Things like this are going to do it. We could say no all day long to everything. And that's what we do around this town because we don't think well enough of ourselves that we don't believe that we deserve anything better than
Right.
dirty streets and ugly buildings and everything else. So thank you for being that way.
Well said, and thank you very much. I really appreciate that sentiment.
Counselor Flores.
I was going to say, all of the questions that are being brought up I couldn't have done a better job of explaining why we need a feasibility study. And I think it would be money well spent. And as far as where these things are going to go up in the air, it's no different than a telephone post. We don't ask
Right.
anybody where we're going to put that. All of these are going to be on city-owned or streets or right-of-ways or easements that the city owns. So, it's, I don't think in a lot of cases, we need to ask for permission where these go on our property. There could be airspace that we need to worry about. And also right-of-ways over railroads and highways. But that's not stopped these other cities. There's got to be a way to do it. And also the feasibility study might confirm what is being said here.
Yeah.
It might tell us you can't do this. It's not going to be economically feasible and go on to the next project because this won't work in Pueblo. We might
Exactly.
very well get that as a conclusion.
Absolutely, yeah. And that will hopefully help direct us into what is the next best place to spend our money and improve our community. That's our goal.
Thanks for the presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing no other questions or comments then, I think this needs staff direction to move forward. So are we going to be seeing this on the upcoming agenda for an ordinance? Because I feel like it needs 2 readings. Would that be correct, Mayor?
Sense of the council if they want to move forward on the feasibility study?
Counselor Martinez Ortega, Counselor Atencio,
Yes.
Counselor Flores,
Yes.
Counselor Maestri,
No.
Counselor Winter.
No.
So are we moving for, so it would be 2 readings though. It would be, it wouldn't just be a resolution. Is that correct?
I think you need an agreement with the county. It's supposed to be partial, it's joint funded.
I can't hear you.
Sorry, you need an agreement with the county if you want to do this, because I think they're saying splitting. So we need confirmation back from the county that they're going to do it. And Pura. And then the other issue is potentially your source of funding is directly from your general fund. And is that something you're good with?
Or the vendor fee.
That to be reviewed.
Yep,
Just
obviously.
saying potentially.
So
So-
you're a supporter, Councilor Martinez? That's for.
Yeah, I think let's go ahead and move forward. I mean, I think that feasible, I mean, again, it's gonna point out what we can do and we can't do moving forward.
Mm.
The only thing that I'm kind of having questions about, Ryan, is I know that we just had a feasibility study for the softball complex.
Mm.
Did we go on?
It's out there someplace. I
talk-
have no idea where it is.
Can we, so I know that we paid for it though, right? Or not yet? Help me understand how that could be 6,000 and this is substantially more.
This is looking at basically the entire downtown as far as what we could draw in. So it's looking at more of a big picture of downtown Pueblo. So even if, for example, it says no, it's not feasible to do something, there's still a huge value in determining what draw where should we focus, what could we charge for people coming into this community, and what are businesses likely to see as a pro to this. When we're looking at the softball field, for example, I'm sure it was, I don't know anything about it, but I assume it was looking at a cost to just build something.
That's a $6 million project.
Yeah.
The scope is completely different.
versus looking at what is the world think about Pueblo and what are they willing to see as an asset and what are they willing to pay for it, as well as what is this project cost? What is the route, all of that good stuff, all the technical details. So very, very different.
Okay, so what I'm hearing then from our own council is that it'll be 2 readings. And before that, we also have to get an agreement from the county. Mr. Jagger, do you want to, will that be assigned to you or the mayor's office?
Have no idea. I'd have to find contacts. I'll follow up with the mayor's office and then follow up on that. And then what's the scope of the agreement? Is it just this bid proposal and is it going? So there would be questions that I'd need to get confirmed back with this,
Great.
So I'll get direction from the mayor's office and follow up with the county and urban renewal, get a better understanding of exactly what's being requested.
Great. Thank you, Mr. McWilliams, for that update.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Agenda then is an executive session. So can I get a motion to go into executive session?
I move to go into executive session for the purpose of determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations, and or instructing negotiators under CRS section 24-6-402, print 4, print E. And the following additional details are provided for identification purposes. Instructing special counsel with respect to settlement negotiations of pending litigation.
Second.
Given that we cannot vote, we're just gonna do everyone in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Seeing none, I adjourn into executive session.
It'd be nice to see that money put into running bills. See that money put into running bills. Exactly. Let's not improve what we have.
Nobody's gonna.
The time is now 8:48 PM and the executive session has been concluded. Am I good? The participants in the executive session were Nick Gradisar, Bob Jagger, Vicente Martinez Ortega, Larry Atencio, Sarah Martinez, Dennis Flores, Regina Maestri, Lori Winter, Laura Solano, and two folks from CML or CIRSA. And outside counsel. For the record, if any participant in the executive session believes that the substantial discussion of matters were not included in the motion to go in the executive session occurred during the executive session, or the improper action occurred during the executive session in violation of the open meetings law, I would ask you to state your concerns for the record. Seeing none, I conclude this work session at 8:48 PM.